Well, Brad, welcome back. Again, you're not a mayor, but this is Mayor's Monday here at WSAU, WSAU.com. Whenever there's 5 Mondays in a month, we like to squeeze you in because, well, there's decisions that run through the county office that affect people. And obviously, first off, welcome
Well,
once
thank you.
again. Once again, we look forward to just a few more discussions like this. As we talked about last week, you are retiring. So, again, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But first off, there was one decision in particular that the county made here in the last month or so that's had a lot of people talking, and it was the Pride Month declaration. First off, give us some of the background on this and why those that brought it forward felt it was important.
Okay. First of all, it started with the Diversity Commission, which I was on until yesterday. And now somebody else has replaced me, but I was on for 25 years. And they listened to people from the LGBTQ plus community, and they learned that this is an oppressed minority here in Marathon County, that mostly they do not communicate that they're part of this because they fear employment impacts, and they fear victimization in all different kinds of ways, including physical violence. They feel excluded and invisible. And they asked whether the county would consider a resolution consistent with what state government did, declaring June as Pride Month, which is a national initiative. The goal is, one, to raise consciousness about how many people in the LGBTQ community there is here in Marathon County and elsewhere, which, as best the research I could do, was about 3.8%. Which means 5,000 people. So we did that, and mostly they live in the shadows. They're not very vocal about who they are because they fear the reaction of others, and B, there's a lot of stigma and shame associated with this. And the more that we can air this out and let people know that they're here, they're part of our community, and they deserve to be treated with fairness, with kindness, and recognized for the intrinsic value they have as people, the better, stronger community we have. A lot of people involved in this process put a lot of initiative or a lot of weight to the business studies. We had a community handprint that said you're going to have to open up in terms of your acceptance or acceptance, tolerance is a lesser word, of people that are different, people of color, people with of different sexual orientation or sexual identity, or you're not going to be successful as a community in recruiting the young professionals who can choose to live anywhere. I mean, they choose to live in a multicultural setting. I'm hesitant to put so much emphasis on the business case for it, even though I know that it's true, because I would be for greater acceptance of all people if it were bad for business. But we've had a long discussion. It's a very polarizing issue. Now, we previously, the month had passed something about Hmong veterans and we're honoring them, and we've honored other groups. So we had certainly had June Dairy Month for as long as anyone can remember. But when you get to the issue of sexual identity and sexual orientation, it changes things. And there were a number of people who wrote to me, and I know the county board members, who believe that the resolution somehow put this group above other groups. I'm not sure why they saw that. I still have failed to understand that. There are also people who said that Wisconsin was one of the first states to pass sexual orientation as an illegal form of discrimination, and that has teeth. And what does a feel-good resolution do? But then there was also the group of a lot of people in the community itself, but also their family members, who said this invisibility is worse than you can imagine. It's resulting in high suicide rates, it's resulting in people moving, it's resulting in people living lives that are not genuine. And the more that government can help by honoring or shining a light on people and helping people sort out some of these issues, the stronger a community will be.
Because to me, that is really what Pride Month is about. It's about making those resources available to members of this community. It's about telling them we value your contributions, whether we know your sexual identity or not.
Right.
To me, that's really what it seems like this is about, because I know you've kind of brought up the business portion in there as well. That's kind of what this is all about. And when you walk back an ordinance like this, which is what it was proposed last week, that's kind of the toothpaste is out of the tube thing already.
Yeah, well, here's how I see the whole issue. I don't know that in the competition of communities for economic, social vitality, and everything else, that passing the Pride Month moved us up much, moved us up a little. Voting it down would have moved us down a lot. I think the downside of that, if we thought that was going to happen, we'd probably be better off not even bringing the subject up. So then when we went to reconsideration, I don't know what impact that would have had. June was already over. But there are other aspects of this that would have been eliminated. In fact, I've now organized educational sessions using UW-Stevens Point faculty on key terms and vocabulary of inclusion, discrimination, and I lost track of the other term, prejudice. But so that everybody has a common vocabulary and understands the key concepts, because what I notice is we're saying the same things in different ways. So let's just agree on a vocabulary and what the key concepts are. What does oppression mean? What does it mean to be discriminated against or not included? I'm not sure I know exactly. Everyone says, I say, well, I'm not sure I know exactly what inclusion means. They say, well, that means being included. I think it means more than that. But I'd be interested to learn what it means beyond that. Because included, it's not clear to me what that means. So that'd be something we learn about. Then we're going to have history of Native Americans. We're not going to go to LGBTQ right away. We've already done a little bit of that. Mm-hmm. One of the things that occurs to me, and I have Professor Brett Barker from our Wausau campus challenged to come up with something that will take at least an hour. He's used to teaching in hours. Mm-hmm. And I want to, right now, our population of Native Americans or indigenous people is less than 0.5%. I know it was higher than that before. What happened to them in the last 150 years? We're down to 0.5% now. So when I was talking to Professor Barker, I said, can you cover 150 years in an hour? No. But I said, can you take a shot at it to hit the high points? Sure. And he's budgeted for an hour and a half because I expect there'll be some conversation. Then I have Maijir Mua, who is the director of 211, but is also adjunct faculty for UW-Stevens Point History Department. And she'll be talking about Hmong history. Here's a shocker for a lot of people, including Hmong people. Hmong history didn't start in 1963 when the CIA contacted them. They had a history long before that. It's hard to tell the story because there were parts where they didn't have a written language. People think they didn't have a written language that came here. No, that's not true. After the French gave, they had one, but the oppression in China forced them to abandon it for a period of time. So, what happened before that? I think we're going to learn that they came from area called Persia, which is now probably Iran or something like that, and then worked their way through China and then to the hills of Laos. And I think people will be interested in that. And of course, people are going to want to know the Vang Pao years and fleeing to the United Nations camps in Thailand, then the trip over to the United States, and they're landing in Fresno and St. Paul and Wausau, Milwaukee, and different places, and how they've adapted since then. But I think we need to have, everyone's got a piece of that story. I think we need to have a more comprehensive piece and spend some time on it and understand how many Hmong died in that war. And they didn't all die of war injuries. They died of all different kinds of things, but as many died fleeing northern Laos as died in the war effort. Let's learn about that. Then next year they'll have another series of educational things. And then what it calls for is to use our public engagement to start to, as a board, let's start to communicate better with different parts of the population. Let's not do so much talking, do a little more listening. And I think that'll be a valid skill for community leaders to start to not just talk about people and not just talk to them, but listen to them. And really listen to their personal stories and listen to their group stories and see if you can use that as a basis to chart a new future for our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, you covered a lot of ground in there of different minority groups here in Marathon County. And like you said, didn't even get to the LGBTQ plus community. So that you're really working to include everybody in
Yeah.
this declaration.
And people, even like myself, you think you know a lot about something until you're actually asked. I wrote the resolution on LGBTQ plus. Actually, I wrote both. Both sides had a resolution they offered. I wrote them both, and I included documentation of every fact that I thought was most important. And I learned a lot about myself and the facts. 'Cause I didn't know. I didn't know how many people lived here, what they lived. I didn't even know. Still can't get used to LGBT, what all those initials mean. And I told Katie Rosenberg, who's one of the early advocates for this, I'm not writing any resolution with the word queer in it. That's a slur.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, I tell you what, I learned a lesson. It's not anymore. It was when I was in college. If you said that, you might get punched. You should get punched. But no, excuse me, I'm just not physical violence. But it was a slur then. But it's not now. And I guess if the people who we're talking about say it's not a slur, I guess it's not. And I put it there. And in fact, on the bottom of the resolution, I put down what each of the letters stood for, because even I wasn't sure. And this way we all shared a common vocabulary when we were talking about it. But what did I know about their lifestyle, or what did I know about the suicide rates? I had an idea that it was unpleasant, but I had no idea it was that bad, to be honest. That you're constantly picked on in school, that it continues into adulthood, that there's high suicide rates. Actually, I think the oppression from outside is less painful than the oppression from inside, and the negative self-image that we've taught these kids and the cover-ups and the hiding and living in the shadows, a disingenuous life. I think that's actually more damaging to the population. So I think visibility will be really a positive thing for everybody. And I learned a lot as we went along. Hopefully some other people who didn't write the resolution learned some things on the way.
Yeah, and that's going to be part of the effort for the next year or so, because from what I understand, the county board is going to go through some of these classes that you're talking about.
That's what it is. They're not for employees. They're just for board members. We still have our Martin Luther King Day, which a lot of the members on the board, I wouldn't say they fought me, but they kept postponing and wanting more information. They weren't excited about it. They didn't embrace it. Now we're having Martin Luther King Day for them every day. So you know what? You never stop learning. Mm-hmm. And if you keep learning, keep listening, we'll get to a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. You learn it find it every day in this job or any other. It's always something every day.
Right. Everybody has an individual stories, and sometimes you ask them to tell it to you, they will, and you'll learn things you couldn't imagine. What I learned mostly from a lot of things that we do here, because I deal with a lot of people in poverty, is how lucky I've had it in life. And sometimes it seems tough, but it isn't that tough. Because having a high income, you can cover a lot of bumps in the road. Having a low income, once we did the poverty simulation, I was in that. It's like, I want to just go jump off a bridge. Can we end this exercise now? I don't know what to do. I can't compete in this environment. It was like, I can't even stand it. And, because what happened was, I don't have the money to even go to work. Mm-hmm. So then I don't have the money to do something else if I don't do that. And just one domino after another. Living in poverty is not easy.
Yeah, and again, you just never know what somebody else's battle has been until you walk a mile in their shoes.
And to be judgmental about people, that's foolish. And we got people on both sides of this polarizing issue judging each other. Mm-hmm. What they really need to do is listen deeply and see, can you hear any common values here? The religious right was part of this, but they brought a perspective of mostly putting one group in front of another, and that this was not some brought in this is not a condoned religious lifestyle. But if you really listen to them and talk to them, they still believed that each of them have value, intrinsic human value. Now they have a different way of thinking about or talking about it, but we all share that. That's the common value, that we should value people for who they are, not the labels. And I think that's universal here in Marathon County. And if we start to say, okay, that's our common value, now how do we go forward and express that? How do we build upon that? I think you've got the basis for a stronger community.
Absolutely. And we'll hope for that going forward here from not only this resolution, but from well beyond your time.
The resolution is just a small piece of a big effort. And it's going to be one person at a time. It's a group and a personal journey, but mostly a personal journey. You have to be open to it and you have to take the journey. You have to go into some place where you're not necessarily comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look forward to seeing where that brings us here over the next few years. But well, again, like I said, well beyond your time here now, which is running short.
I'll still be alive though.
Yes, you will.
And I'll still be living here in Wausau.
You'll be here one way or another.
Yeah.
One thing that's coming up in the very immediate future, I know you definitely want to welcome all people to Wausau next week. Actually, starting tomorrow, it's going to be the Wisconsin Valley Fair here in Wausau. Talk about what's that will offer folks.
Well, it's one of the things that I'm aware of now that they're going to have, instead of a rock band on Saturday, they're going to have a rodeo. I'm looking forward to that. You know what, the rock bands are cool, but I'm too old for that. And I haven't seen a rodeo in years. And I'm looking forward to that as something new. I know they're going to have shows. I don't know the names of the artists off the top of my head, but I know that they're head name entertainment. The most important thing from the county's perspective is all the 4-H kids and all the 4-H projects and all the animals that they're putting. It really puts us in touch with the backbone of Marathon County, which is rural roots. This is an urban county now. You can say it's a rural county because most of the land is, but most of the people live in the Wausau metro area. And that shift has been on. It's unmistakable. It's not going to get smaller. My last understanding was that there were like 500 active farmers now in Marathon County. And that's not very many. I'm sure there were thousands 30 and 40 years ago. So that's changed. But we're still of a rural heritage. It's still an important part of our community and our economic picture, and it's changing, and people get a chance to learn more about that, but also go down and have fun. They still have a midway, they still sell elephant ears, they have music. It should be fun.
Favorite is the elephant ears then your favorite fair food?
No, I don't eat elephant ears. They're not good for you. I know people in my family, they will eat those, but the kids will. But I'm not going to eat that. I don't know if I have a favorite fair food. I like them all. But I'm a Weight Watchers guy, and I try to narrow it down a little bit to maybe the brats and a couple of cheese curds maybe.
Yeah. Absolutely. You can't go to a Wisconsin event and not have cheese curds.
No,
of course,
you gotta have some.
Every now and then. Just don't overindulge. I'm more of a chili cheese fries.
Are you? Okay. Yeah, I like those too.
Those go down pretty good at the fair. But yeah, it's going to be. Do you have any? I don't know if I've ever seen the estimates. How many people come through the turnstiles every year?
No, I don't have any idea. It's a big number, though.
It's
a big number, and it's the fair is on the rebound financially. For years, it made $80,000, then it started losing $80,000 a year. But it's on the rebound. They've gotten smart about this isn't a place where you just give things away. It is both a festival and a business underneath it, so it has to pay for itself and pay the expenses. And I have to credit Keith Long and Han and his team for really understanding what it takes to revitalize this fair and make it financially successful, but it's always been successful in every other way.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the chance to showcase a great asset right in the middle of town like Marathon Park like that is always great for the county.
I'll tell you what, Marathon Park is an urban jewel. You know, a lot of counties have great county parks, and we have great ones too, but not too many of them are in the center of the urbanized area.
Mm-hmm. And that's, of course, a credit to the team that keeps that in great shape as well, year in and year out.
It does. It's a fantastic place.
Anything else that you'd like to add then before we let you go?
Nope. I'll see you at the fair.
All right.